Well, as is always traditional in any of our F&I conferences, we like to kick off with a key figure in our industry, and guys, this year is no exception. It's also got a little bit of a sombre feeling about it as well, because the chap who came and did last year's headline speaker sadly passed away in February, so I thought there was no fitting tribute to Alan to ask Daniel Burgess, who's the Managing Director of HPI, to officially open this year's conference. This gentleman here runs a company that is without doubt a household name. He tells us when our cars have been written off, stolen, or indeed may have outstanding finance on them. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me tremendous pleasure to welcome Daniel Burgess, the Managing Director of HPI, to officially open this year's conference.
I think I walked too quickly. If I had 15 seconds to walk up for the music. Thank you very much, Andy. It's a pleasure to open the conference. A great number of attendees. My task today is actually quite difficult. If any of you know me, you probably know that I'm a bit of a pitcher, I'm a bit of a seller, I'm always trying to do a deal. And today, when I was asked to talk about somebody that was on our management team for strangely been at HPI for 10 years now, it doesn't feel like it, feels a lot less. But a colleague who'd been with me for 8 years at HPI as a senior director, it's really quite difficult. The gentleman in question was Alan Bishop. He died at 57 years young. And I can remember having a conversation with him probably 2 or 3 months before he went to hospital, and he'd got to be slowing down a bit. He was still an awkward, cantankerous old bugger, but as I said, he was our awkward, cantankerous old bugger, and we loved him for that. And he was going to hospital, and he kind of knew what he'd been told he had to do. He had to have chemotherapy, and we kind of wished him well, and we said, great, you've got a plan, you know where you're going, you know what's going to happen, and we look forward to having you back. And he went in, and 2 days after the chemotherapy started, he died. And it was really, and it's quite strange, because this is kind of a bit of a closure for me, because I think as a company we've all been in denial that could happen to somebody that you worked with all that time. So in some respects, it's nice to do this today from my point of view, because we've all got to now move on. But I did want to just say a few things about him. And the first thing is, he was a fantastic family man. And people talk a lot about family these days. Is it broken? Is it working? Is it not working? Whatever. But this guy, when I went to the funeral, you saw his wife and his children. They were so tight. They were so close. And it absolutely devastated them. The good news now is they're coming out of that, but it took them a long time. And then you talk about personality. He was very, very ethical. He was black and white. With us as HPI, he was always keeping us on the straight and narrow. He was always saying, no, you mustn't do that, you can't do that. Commercially, it may be great, but actually, ethically, it's the wrong thing to do. You can't go down that route, because commercial people always get a bit carried away at times. He was great at keeping us straight and narrow. And then, his personality, he was, as I described earlier on, he was an unusual character. And once you got through this sort of gruff, grumpy exterior, he was just a great guy. There's nothing he wouldn't do for you. And he's always, if you wanted a bit of unbiased advice, you could go to him. We used him all the time. People within the industry used him. Even our competitors, I can't believe we have any, would talk to him and actually valued what he would say. And that's where he stood. He was kind of up there. And just on a really nice and simple note, because he was also probably a little boy at heart, and you didn't see it very often, but there's a great picture. The one on the left is, I think he's trying to be James Bond, and the one on the right is he was at a do like these, one of these dudes, and he was really mad keen on motor racing. And one of his heroes was Paddy Hopkirk. And he met at this event Paddy Hopkirk, who was the winner of the Monte Carlo Rally in 1964. I was clearly not around then, maybe. And also, not only Paddy Hopkirk, but the car that Paddy Hopkirk drove in 1964. And he was just like, you can see the face, he's just like he was like a little kid. I suppose the best analogy would be like a 10-year-old footballer these days meeting David Beckham. He just sort of stood there and grinned. And it was nice that, you know, this serious man just had a light heart to him and just loved living life. And I guess to say is, he was great to work with, and we thank him, and I would hope that anybody that had met him viewed him in the same way. So I'll move on now to a little bit more about HPI. And the other interesting thing, this is not, as I said, this is not a pitch, so I've kind of tried to just give you a bit of an update from what he gave last year. So we're still dealing with all the same people, we're still trying to make sure that we protect our customers, and that's whether that's finance houses, dealers, insurance companies, or end users from buying the wrong car, or at least allow them to buy the car knowing the full facts about the car. One of Alan's last legacies was a new product called Crush Watch. And I don't know if you're aware that there's about 1.4 million uninsured cars out there. And the police are now seizing these cars, and the police now get a bit narky and they go and either flog them through auctions or crush them, hence the name Crush Watch. And the problem is that they weren't actually checking the cars to make sure who owned them. They were assuming that the person driving them owned them. Well, actually, in a lot of cases they didn't. So what we did is instigate a scheme where they were now then provenance checked with HPI. And what we managed to do in that period, on 60,000 cars, we found that 1 in 10 were on finance, a lower than normal ratio, but generally down to the age of the vehicles. But we saved from the crusher £31 million worth of cars, giving the cars back to the finance companies in most cases. And the amazing thing was, it wasn't actually just crappy cars. Yes, there were lots of cheaper end cars. It was 5 Ferraris, 25 Porsches, 5 Bentleys, 2 Lamborghinis. So some heavy stuff. So clearly, even those people can't afford their insurance, which was interesting. And the great news is now that we've extended that now, because also there's, the police are doing something now on tax refundable licence avoidance, and again they're crushing cars, and we're making sure that they don't crush cars that still have finance on them. And that was one of the things that Alan did. It's not about making lots of money, it's about actually providing a service and making sure that people don't lose money. So that just gives you a little bit of an innovation that Alan had done. So moving on from that, where are we all? Well, actually, it is all actually, although this year doesn't feel necessarily great, and I've got to say, since Alan died to now, it's been just one blur of work. But actually, as a year, new car sales are up. The penetration's up, which is great news. So we're up 68,000 vehicles, and maybe it doesn't always feel like that, but it is a lot of cars to be up. 4.3%, which is great news. Another great news thing, and I'm afraid I'm sorry I couldn't get any more up-to-date figures than this. This was 3 months to the end of May. The next one comes at the end of August. Finance was up in all areas, from business used, consumer new, consumer used. So for your industry and our industry, it's great news. Some key statistics about HPI. These kind of don't change. It's amazing. You'd think people would learn, people would do so. But of every 100 provenance checks, 24 of the cars are on finance. 15 have a previous history or identity. Now that isn't as dodgy quite as it sounds. It's had a person plate or changed a number plate or something like that. 5 had mileage discrepancies, which we're seeing an increase in. 4 have been written off due to serious accidents. And 1 is recorded as stolen by the police or insurers. And to put that into the number, that's 30 a day. Quite a lot of cars getting nicked. So they stay the same. They move slightly upward. They're getting slightly worse. It's not significantly getting worse, but it's slightly getting worse. And the industry faces new challenges. The European Court of Justice ruling on gender insurance, where suddenly the insurance companies now can't provide cheaper insurance to ladies. The Competition Commission is looking to investigate the whole insurance industry. Motor finance has been doing really well, but will regulation dampen the future growth? And the OFT campaign on Know Your Legal Rights has empowered used car buyers, particularly, to search for more information about the car they're buying and know that they have more rights. So what have we done about this? We want to, without Alan, who was there to support us, what have we done to actually add value back into this? We've used over a number of years a gentleman called Professor Ewan Davis. So we've committed more resource and more revenue to this to get more value out of this gentleman. He's a barrister and a Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the Swansea University. He's a leading UK authority on asset finance. He's a main consultant on law and policy within HBI. He's advisor to government and the international commercial law organisations. He's a visiting professor at a number of universities. He's the chair of the FLL Business Code of Practice Monitoring Group and is the governor of the UK Leasing Foundation. It's quite a lot of work, that. But we've agreed now with him that he's actually going to come closer to us, and we're going to widen his remit to make sure that we can carry on providing the protection and the information to our customers to make sure that they're in the best possible place. And if you meet the guy, he's great, because actually, although you can tell he's got a brain as big as a planet, he's actually a really nice guy as well. And actually, when you ask him a straight question, he gives you straight answers. He doesn't go off into one, which is really great. So that's showing a little bit more of our commitment to making sure that we keep this industry as clean as possible. And this, to be pleased, is the final slide. And as I said, I really didn't want to make it a pitch today. It was just a little explanation about HBI and who we're owned by. 4 years ago, we got purchased by a company called Solera. It's a worldwide company. It's on the US Stock Exchange. It's a dynamic company. It's an aggressive company. When they bought us as a company, their share value was $22. The share value today is $45. 4 years. It's a dynamic company. In the UK, they own a company called Audatex as well. And so there's two companies. Audatex interface between insurers and body shops and when you've had an accident. We have operations in over 60 countries. We have over 55,000 business customers, 2,500 employees, and we operate in 5 continents. Basically, there isn't really anywhere we don't operate as Solera. So there you are. That's just a little update on HBI, a little update on Solera, and a final farewell to Alan Bishop. And I would like to just thank him for all his help. Thank you.